Alright, so we're doing introductions first. I'm Rayle. I'm the chair of CARD and chair of Residents for Safe Water, and I'm in my 26th year watching over this, trying to keep the right thing happening.
Brian Nagel, assistant AG assigned to this case.
Kevin Lund, engineer DEQ.
Beth Collins, resident of Ann Arbor.
Marcia Haddock, property owner and sign transfer.
Bob Bailey, Simon Township resident.
I'm Sarah Nedridge with the DEQ. I'm the district enforcement coordinator.
Gerald Turner with DEQ, district supervisor.
Jonathan Downing. I'm here to film. Make sure we get all this stuff. We're working on a documentary, so.
Yeah, Stephen St. John, documentarian, also Ann Arbor resident. So.
Yep, Trey Sarmento, Ann Arbor resident as well, and helping out on the stacks and including documentary. So.
Who's making the documentary?
We are. So we're just gathering information. Yep, individually. So yep.
Did you sign in?
We actually did not.
Okay,
know.
thank you.
You can add yourself at the bottom there.
Thanks so much.
Okay, I'm Shauna Milkey, Ann Arbor resident, and I'm secretary for CARD.
I'm Dan Hamill. I'm DEQ project manager for the Gelman site.
Jenny Kahn, Washtenaw County public health engineer.
Dennis Crusoe, board member of CARD and coordinator member for the Allens Creek Watershed Group.
I'm Jeffrey. I'm Ann Arbor City Council Ward 1.
Max Pettibone, local resident. Just in time, Kathy.
And you are?
Kathy Knoll, Scioto Township trustee.
Thanks for coming.
All right. I guess I move that we, this is a board vote, I move that we approve the minutes from the January meeting.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor of the board? Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Thanks for doing it.
Thanks. All right.
That means me.
You're up, Dan.
So Dan's up.
I got several updates, the ones that are on the agenda. We did have received our results from the split sampling at MW 103, which I mentioned last CARD meeting. The December result that Gelman got was greater than 85 ppb, and it triggered some. Oh, trigger's the wrong word. That required. We asked them to do additional sampling the next month, and I split samples with them in January here, and we've got those results back. Result from the Gelman got was 89 ppb. My split sample was 95 ppb, and so we are still at above the 85. What we have in the past identified is that we will be getting with Gelman to kind of start discussion of what that means and what steps that may need to be put in place to find out what's happening in that area as that relates to the, it's in the eastern area of the Gelman site, which within the prohibition zone. So that was some of those discussions are related to potential work needed to make sure and evaluate whether we're going to have any problems related to contamination going outside the prohibition zone. I do want to point out now, though, is that was all based on 85 ppb, which is the current consent judgment number for dioxane, the criteria that we are utilizing. As you know, the Michigan has implemented a 7.2 criteria. We are right now in negotiations, confidential negotiations with Gelman. Interveners, DEQ and Gelman are talking about how to implement that 7.2. So this where it relates to 85 is kind of again, it is affected by the negotiations, confidential negotiations. So we will move forward with talking with Gelman and see where that goes. Yes.
So what's the depth of this well? Roger might have that.
Yeah, you asked me too quickly. It's yeah.
It's
63
63
feet.
63.
Right, and there's an adjacent well, 103D, which is down deeper. That also has positive detections in the, let's say, 9 to 12, 9 to 11 ppb range. But if you go historically over the years, this 103S has, has range in the last couple of years from 60 to 90 in that range.
Where's the shallow well? Is that this one? There's a 63? It's shallow?
Yes, there's only 2 wells there.
Okay.
At some locations, there's there's a shallow well and a deep well. At other locations, a lot of locations at the Gelman site, you may have 3 wells, and you'll have an I, an intermediate. It all is dependent on site-specific geologic materials encountered.
So the deep well is not being sampled, or has
No, it's being sampled.
And it's at?
I believe it was sampled in December, and it's at 9 ppb, 9 or 10 ppb.
Okay.
And that has been that way for years too. So it's nothing surprising there. Again, the range of the 103S over the last couple of years has been in that range of let's say 60, 70 to 90 something. The DEQ just got 95. So what we have been identifying is we have been getting questions from the CARD group related to what happens at 103, should that require something, and we have again, as we've stated and have in the record, we've going to be talking with Gelman about what does that mean. I just want to make sure everybody realizes that it's a little more now complicated because of the 7.2 criteria and the current negotiations.
Quick question, just a hypothetical question. If our current standard was 7.2 under the current consent judgment, what would the DEQ be doing now?
Well, 103 is not, 103 is not, it's within the prohibition zone, it's not right on the edge. So what we would be doing is what we have said in, related to the 85, is to start looking at does that mean something? Does that going above the criteria, does that indicate that something is moving where we are, not expecting it to move, and where it could potentially then impact a required the prohibition zone and the requirement to not let criteria outside of that prohibition zone. But like I said,
like we had on the north side.
Right. It's going to be
the prohibition zone up.
It's going to be the same. The prohibition zone is an area that is required under the court judgment that currently it's on record 85 doesn't go outside the prohibition zone.
But inside the prohibition
zone, it's only a block away from the border. So
right. Yep.
But inside the prohibition zone, I can go to 2,800 currently. Interface to the river at 2,800. Oh no, 280.
Well, that is.
It's up in the air too.
It's up in the air too.
It's not a hypothetical question.
Is that a question or is that an answer? Yeah.
No, it's not a hypothetical question. It's confidential. It'll be addressed in confidentiality.
So technically, it's 2,800. So.
Well, that historically, related to the using the 85, that was 2,800, but that has also changed. It's proposed to be changed. So we won't. We are discussing that right now in the negotiations.
So before we leave this topic of 105, are you then automatically going to split sample the next reading?
I'm going to split sample again in March. It's.
Well, wait a minute. Shouldn't it be the next month? Because isn't that part of the agreement with the city? That if it hits above 85 2 months in a row, something
it did already. December.
It already did. What I did, what it was, is they let us know in December as soon as they knew that they were above 85, and then given me an opportunity to go split, which I did in January, and so they getting all the data back. Both labs, DEQ lab and the Gelman lab, again had a concentration above 85. And so I am going to go. They're scheduling. They usually schedule the 103 earlier in the month, and with what I have to is planning. Since they've already hit the 2 consecutive months, I said that I've given them information that I'd like to split in March. So February we're going to be rushing it. I have other the Allen Creek drain sampling activities coming up. So they've already, if you want to say, gone 2 consecutive months, which was what the first reaction point, or trigger, or whatever you want to call it, was. So sampling it again in February, it's not as, they've gone above that for what people, what we've asked. So I'll do it again in March and see what it is then. Now just realize historically, if you look at the graph, Roger, of the analytical, it's gone above 85 and then dropped down below 85 again. So is this a pattern that means it's going to be consistently above 85? We won't know till after a couple more months out, or seasonal. It could be seasonal variation. So we'll keep our eye on it.
So it's already triggered the point of being above for 2 months in a row.
Yes. So whether I get a February sampling, I did, with what I have to do in February, already proposed other sampling. I decided not to try to do that, and also the weather and everything.
You said your January was 90 something.
Oh, my DEQ's split in January were Gelman's was 89 ppb. DEQ was 95. The DEQ lab was 95.
Right. I haven't updated this with the 2018 data yet because I'm still waiting for the excess.
Oh, okay.
Update, but
yeah, I haven't.
The bar would be up like around here.
Yeah.
And so it's.
Again, if you notice, look at that bar graphs. There has been some concentrations that have gone up in the last couple of years above 85, and then has dropped back down. So.
But this is the first time it's been 2 months in a row.
Right. Now, again, is that significant? We will keep our eye on that, and I do want to make sure everybody realizes that it's a little more complex now with the new criteria.
Because the new criteria we're talking about.
Yeah.
Down here somewhere in there, it's been above ever since 2006 when they started reading it. Yeah.
So that was related to the MW 103.
And just before we leave 103 again.
Sure.
Where is that 103 dioxide coming from?
Well, Roger, you have a plume map there.
No, but in terms of elevation.
Well,
where's the next closest place that it could be coming from? So we're talking about elevation, screen elevation range of 840 to 860 above sea level. So let's look at that. 840 to 860 above sea level, 840 to 860. Here's 103. The next closest one is 87S in that screen elevation range.
In that screen elevation range, Roger, I want to point out that you're putting some interpretations.
Well, you want to go 20 feet above and 20 feet below.
Well, right. You're putting interpretations. How you're looking at that is very, very like level bathtub type zones. It's a glacial sediment aquifers, very complex. So
what's the?
So saying that this elevation, this is exactly where this is coming from, is not easily defendable in this type of geologic setting.
So do you have instances where dioxane is moving more than 20 feet up and down? Do you have an instance where you can show that?
I cannot show that. Pick a well and say that's coming down this zone. Again, that interpretation is is complicated in a geologic setting, has always been that way, and this is no different.
It might be coming from here, which is, you know, high concentrations that are still going up.
I do also want to point out, you know, so make sure people realize that it's within the prohibition zone. There's no one utilizing that water. Even in this particular case, going south, you know, the southern prohibition zone, also in the Ann Arbor area, there's not a lot, if very many wells that are being utilized as water supply. It is going south of the prohibition zone in that area is still covered by the Ann Arbor providing water.
And even if it got to the, so then this could have been a supply well, except it's too deep.
I don't know, so what, your northeast?
No, the northwest supply well.
Yeah, it was a supply well.
So I don't have the data for that, but I believe that's in the E unit. That's deeper.
Yes.
Than this one.
Right.
So
but again,
y'all would argue that, well, even though this is above 85, it's not going to hit this because.
Well, again, I'm gonna go back to that the geologic setting is very complex, Roger, and I'm not going to say that it, you know, I would think it would be a hard argument to say, well, they're not, you're not going to have a reaction because of pumping. Pumping does a lot to contamination movement, so that's what we're doing.
So what's the pink?
Yeah, what's your pink outline there? That's not where they.
Is that an expansion of the prohibition zone?
Oh, this is the prohibition zone the judge carved out when the city tried to intervene and say our supply well was contaminated. We want to join.
That's what they call the donut, but it's not really donut shaped. Like when they.
Well, no. What's the pink line indicate?
Yeah.
Right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
the whole
that's
prohibition
zone.
Okay.
Where the original prohibition zone
was to the north
here,
no,
and the judge said, "No, you can't join the case. We're going to carve this out and make it a separate prohibition zone."
Oh, that's right.
And
yeah, that's what I was referring to.
Okay.
So that's a little bit misleading.
To keep the city out of the case.
The actual prohibition zone is
the north. The north line.
Right now, but this was the line.
Yeah. The original line is to the
Proposed,
south.
but never
Proposed.
actually the prohibition zone.
No, the judge carved this out.
Okay.
Well,
anyway, let's go move on.
I just wanted to make sure that's what it indicated as I look at the map.
This gets stranger by the minute. Anyway.
The judge set the prohibition zone so he could easily carve a piece out and say, no, this is going to be a separate case.
I think Roger's probably right.
No matter what nature says.
That's accurate.
Okay, the next item that I have on the agenda there is TW8 replacement, an update. The TW8 has been abandoned. It was completed in January. If you remember, last November or so, they identified a problem with TW8. It is a current extraction well to the west of the actual property there. It is an extraction well that is being utilized to pump contaminated groundwater from
TW8?
TW8, yes. So they noticed sand in the screen, so it was compromised, the well was compromised, so they replaced that well. And they replaced it with, I'll start referencing and you'll start seeing analytical results related to TW28. That is the new replacement well for the TW8. It's near the TW8 area. It's next door. I don't know how many feet away. I wasn't able to get out there and visually, but Stearns Drilling Company, they completed that in the middle of January. Installed a well screened at 60 to 70 feet, and then they properly abandoned the TW8 well.
Did they take a reading before they abandoned it? Or wasn't it possible?
You mean an sample?
Yeah, a sample. Before.
I don't know that. I can't say for sure.
Because that's what happened to their supply wells. As far as we know, they didn't take a sample before they plugged them.
They have been, I mean, the well had been an active well, so they, you know.
They were sampling it.
They were sampling
Well,
prior to that, so.
There's
But it is, it has been installed, and the TW28 has also now been put back online as part of the sampling in that, extraction in that area.
So it actually was functional, commissioned?
It was commissioned, it's currently online. So, yes.
So when they proposed doing this well, the CARD group had talked about the fact that it would be great to have a well go down to bedrock. And since they were drilling this well, apparently Gelman has decided not to do that.
Yes, they did not do that. They drilled the well.
And the DEQ had no recourse for the
I requested that they do that.
Yeah.
They chose not to.
They chose not to on their own volition.
Yeah. The actual installation depth, they ended boring was 72 feet. They basically replaced the well. The screened interval of the other one was.
I think Roger's point that we don't have many wells to bedrock, this would have been a great opportunity to get some of that data, and unfortunately they chose not to take that opportunity. So bedrock is about 300 feet, or how deep is bedrock there?
200.
How many?
Around 200.
About 200.
210 feet.
So how much would that have cost them?
I don't know what they're paying, you know. I mean,
cost is not an issue, remember?
You got 30 million.
According to the consent judgment, cost is not.
Okay, well, I just wanted to bring that up as an aside.
Another.
Yeah, in fact, if we're going to look and see how many wells there are at that depth, turn them all off here.
It's unfortunate they decided not to help out the community once again.
So these are the deeper wells on site. By the way, this parcel here is what's left of their original parcel. And TW8 was right in the middle of that. And here are the deep wells on their original parcel. There aren't any. There are no deep wells on the original parcel. No deep wells on the original parcel. There's borings that went down that deep, but they didn't put wells in. They don't have a permanent well.
Where's the closest deep well? Oh, there, I see.
Well, these are no longer
No.
deep. You know, these are TW8's one of them, and W45D is another. There's some other ones that are deeper down here on the 242 Church property in Saginaw Forest. But we really don't know what's going on underneath the original parcel on an ongoing basis. We know that there's a lot of dioxin here because it shows up in the shallower ones, like MW1 and MDP1 replacement. They thought the same, kind of the same thing back here in MW1, if you remember, because they had this really high concentration going on. And they said, well, maybe there's a break in the casing, and dioxin is seeping in from the shallower soil layers. So they
We only have
replaced
about
it.
9 more minutes. Could we get through the DEQ updates? That seems like a
Yeah, that's a good way to
session
cut
for
me
the
off.
CARD
Okay,
chair
go ahead.
update.
No problem.
Roger's time, not our time.
The next item I have on mine is the Allen Creek drain work plan. It is related to, we've identified that we will be sampling Allen Creek drain system at working with the Washtenaw County Drain Commission.
Water Resources Commission.
Yeah, okay, whatever,
Yeah.
I used the term that I.
The old term, yeah.
And we've been working with Evan Pratt and Washtenaw County and the city of Ann Arbor. And at his suggestion, request, we've accepted, we are planning to sample some manholes in that area. I do want to point out that as soon as we decided that we were going to do that sampling, the event is basically, sampling is basically once a month at 7 manhole locations that we picked with Washtenaw County for once a month for 6 months. So we're going to try to attempt to do the first sampling event here on Thursday. You all heard the weather this week of some ice maybe and rain. So again, weather dependent. But we're going to, within the next week or so, we'll be sampling of those locations.
So that's going to be in this area where the groundwater.
It's going to be
where the land surface falls away, exposing the aquifer. And
right. It's that strategic locations that we chose with Washtenaw County in the where Allen Creek drain, where it's in the drain area. Basically, I have a working copy. It's going to be right there, Roger, in those locations. Here's the.
Well, here, show me on the.
Where am I here? On the lefty. Okay, where's West Park?
West Park's. Right, see where the ball field is in the middle of the teal area, right?
Towards
Right.
the upper.
Oh, right there.
Higher.
Yeah, there we go.
That's it. Right.
So we're going to be sampling starting on Chaplin here, and Chapin. I don't know all the roads.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
And within West Park again, at the same location that we at the swirl chamber there, and then in these locations along 8th, and then we go back up until
7th, by the way.
7th, 8th. We'll be sampling along 8th, and let me get the work plan out, and I can tell you exactly where the again. We're going to be on Maple Ridge and Arborview, so we're going to be up here, up in this area. So it's going to be 7 locations up here in this approximate area.
How far up Allen Creek?
Well, Wildwood and Arborview, Murray and Washington.
Do you see those bubbles on there? Those are the bubbles that follow Allen Creek up. Go to your left there. See this?
Down.
See those teal bubbles? You're almost at there's one, and then you go up, there's another one, and there's even one in the closer to the red. How far up? How close to the red have you?
We're going to be at Wildwood there, so we're going to be up here.
Jeff,
and we're going to be at Mayfield and Wildwood Park. In that there is a valley that goes through there. We'll be sampling down in that ravine in the furthest north up there, and then coming back this way along Arborview. So again, it's in this approximate area.
Okay.
Oh, what I do, Roger?
Well, you're just moving the map.
Yeah, I know.
When you grab it,
so,
you can move it.
That is planned, this first event. I want to point out that once we decided that we were going to sample, I did give Gelman a chance to complete these activities, and they voluntarily agreed to go ahead and conduct the sampling and conduct a 1,4-D analysis at their lab. I will be with doing some split sampling there, and we will also be conducting a not just 1,4-D analysis. We will send samples to the DEQ lab to look at a full scan of volatile organics to assist Washtenaw County.
Yeah, since they found it up like at RL1 and RL4 or something.
Again, like just realize too, we're mentioning it as part of the Gelman investigation, so we'll gather some information. But realize, as you all know, Allen Creek drains a large portion, and just because we get detections, we will evaluate whether it's related to Gelman as we get this information.
So when's that going to be done and available?
Well, we're going to do sampling for 6 months, let's say starting here in February. So we're going to be completing that in June, July. And then I had identified my goal is to have a report available in September that I'll be able to post.
Wait a minute, are we going to get any results before September?
We had not planned to do that. Again, we want to see the whole picture. We don't want to have all these little snapshots and have people reaction. We were going to discuss it with Washtenaw County and compile it and then and then have a report that summarizes everything.
So I think the CARD group may suggest that we get data back sooner than that.
Yeah, I mean, we
can have a vote on that if we want, but I think we should, the delay from February to September seems excessive.
There's
seems
no
like
excuse
we should
for
get at least a
delaying the data,
preliminary.
because this whole site, I mean, the company could argue, well, we're not done sampling this whole site, so there should be no reports until we get all the data in. So, 100 years from now, they can finally publish the report. No, we should get the data as it comes in, because it's going to trigger more sampling. In that meanwhile, the dioxine's spreading.
And we do meet
We
on a
don't know that it would trigger more sampling. I mean, we've got a 6-month sampling plan.
Right.
I don't think there's any issue I would necessarily not share the data.
Okay.
Yeah, I just
don't know why.
I had not planned to do it. I wanted to have a
Can
summer.
you share the data with us on an ongoing basis?
I mean, this is what's happened back at the core, where they've been sampling for a year and a half or 2 years.
Wait a minute, Roger. Can you share the data with us as you go along? I mean, I think
I don't know why that would be an issue.
Okay. Okay.
So I just
Unless
hadn't planned
something
because.
comes up,
But even if something came up, I mean, it would be more likely if something came up in the data that was bad, we would want to tell
Yep.
than to not want
But
to tell.
Gelman can't hold back this data.
We're not planning, well.
The agreement is we're doing this and they're giving us the data.
Yeah.
Specifically addressing the fact that they had
On
to
an
give us the
ongoing
data
basis.
like you guys have brought
Yes,
up in the past.
we have not discussed,
Okay, great.
And I'll be split sampling for dioxin too, not on every location, but, just like we do with these, just to get a range, of possible concentration.
Otherwise, you have to hold this back from the database until September. You might as well just put it in with everything else.
I mean, I hadn't really, I just was kind of, like I said, planning to put the stuff into the database as we got it, and you were getting the database. The actual send out the lab data sheets, I had not.
Yeah, interpretation.
I had not really. Again, I gotta.
Yeah.
Everything.
People are very interested in this data. Okay. No question. And I would like to make a point. I think that the Evan Pratt and the DEQ should have come to the CARD group to discuss this plan before it was formally presented to us as a done deal. I think that the CARD group would have been a good source of additional information. The fact that the Allen's Creek group with the CARD group actually got this initial test started, which turned into an important data set that showed near surface groundwater could be contaminated. The fact that we were not involved in this is not something I think is a good development. I think we should, when you have plans like this with Evan Pratt or anybody else, I think you should come to the CARD group and get some feedback. Like I said, some of these sites are not even worth testing that the DEQ tested. I'm glad their tests were done, but I think it was a total waste of time for some of these tests to be run down in the ravines where there was no potential surface groundwater to be sampled. The Allen's Creek at that point is in a pipe. There's no outflow. So I think,
So Vince, I just want to say, you might think that's a useless sample, but the drain commissioner has concerns for his own staff that go in
I'm saying
those.
the previous tests.
So there's reasons to do
they're not doing the
testing.
test.
And I would disagree that we haven't. I mean, most of this work was done at the behest of you guys, your guys' continuance and bringing it up, so we decided to do it.
Well,
We've shared it,
yeah.
we're still taking comments on it. You're free to provide any comments you wish. You have. We've looked at those comments, we've evaluated them, we've talked with Evan, we've talked with our other partners, and at this point, this is what we've decided to do to further the cause of sampling surface water in that area at your guys' request.
Yeah, but we didn't have input exactly where you're going to be sampling.
Well, yeah, we're the state agency, and that's our job.
Exactly.
It was already formed when it was presented to
So
us.
it's all on you.
It's on
not just
Washtenaw
on us,
County.
it's on Washtenaw County, the city, and we're all doing this at your behest.
Whatever.
And this is the second thing in a row that you guys have bashed us for, and we've done what you've asked us to do.
Well, it's not bashing
What do you do? You don't think his statement was bashing?
Hold on, where's my?
What we're asking is, you know,
As a
to
resident.
consider input from
No.
the public who have some information that you might not have.
Right.
That's all we're saying. We have some information that you might not have.
For example,
You
Hannah
guys tell
Park,
us
Hannah
everything,
Park.
right? You share emails, we have all that information. If you have information we don't have, email it to us.
Let me
Don't
be-
wait for us to do something and say, oh,
No,
you
this
didn't
is-
ask us, here's
no.
information we've been holding. Well, you just said you have information we don't have. Where is it?
Well, that's
And how would it
true.
affect this
We have sent you
investigation?
information.
And it wasn't incorporated in the sampling plan, then let us know. We can
But
adjust, we got 6 months of
We
sampling.
even
can
know
adjust.
that you were picking locations. We didn't even know that.
Right.
Well, again, I want to, in
Just
picking, we went from your, Washtenaw County, your water resource commissioner was the first, to request that, and he was the one that
No,
he,
we requested it well before
I
him.
started every month to this, and I first heard about it.
Evan
on
Pratt
July.
wasn't involved in this initially at all, and he did not come to the CARD meetings, did not get involved, did not contact us. 5 months later, when the numbers started going up, he got involved, which is great. But the CARD group and the Alms Creek group was the ones who initiated this. For example, Hannah Park is a total waste of time. That doesn't,
Well,
there's
let's
no.
not dwell on the ones
Well,
that they sampled.
okay, I just want to be specific,
Because
okay?
you don't know for sure until you sample.
I was down there, I was walking, it's a hard spot to go to as well, which is, glad you're willing to do that, but that site's worthless because the creek is in a
Well,
pipe.
but Vince,
If we
would
say
you
it's
agree
worthless,
that
it means nothing.
had
If
we
it's
been involved,
worthless,
if
then we
we
don't do it.
known that they were setting
Yeah, yeah.
locations,
Yeah.
and we had information like this, we would say, well, maybe you want to check those bubble areas
Yep, yep.
on the first crack
Where it's
instead
near,
of
where the
waiting.
water's closer to the surface.
Yeah,
If you have comments on the work, then we're more than willing to accept them and review them.
Right, but you understand what I'm saying, in that
Yeah.
if there are meetings set that are gonna, that we should be able to weigh in on, we should at least know that there's a meeting to be
Yep.
set locations, so we can send you timely emails. You know what I'm saying? Instead of waiting until
I
after
thought we
this.
had all your information. I thought you guys have been free flowing with information.
No,
I didn't know there was
we're
any
not gonna
information about
inundate
this.
you with, hypotheticals, and if we don't know what's being discussed, we can't weigh in on what's being discussed.
Right, it was fully hatched when we
oh yeah,
got
it was
word of it.
DEQ
So I
and
think we
Washtenaw
should-
It was
County.
designed,
Okay,
it was
enough.
designed by the people that are responsible for designing it.
Well, no, we're a resource for the county
And
and
you're still
the
free to
townships
supply
and the
your
city.
information and we can adjust accordingly.
Yeah,
That's the best part
Just to
about
have it out.
But that's water over the dam
Okay,
under the
can I
bridge.
just say something, Roger?
Let's move on.
I just want to say something. I think what that you're saying is, they want better communication from the DEQ, an opportunity for some dialogue, and that, right? I think that's been a recurrent problem. And there's a lot of pent-up energy about that issue.
Okay. Understood.
I just have one comment. You
Go
were
ahead.
saying about Hannah Creek area.
Hannah Park.
Hannah Park.
Yeah.
If you remember also in one of the town hall meetings, and then I got emails afterward, there was some people, several, that had concerns about their kids playing in Hannah Park.
Okay, okay.
In the water there, in
Okay.
that area. So, I mean,
Okay,
that-
well, that's a
and
good-
that,
I
that's
forgot about
another
that.
reason
Okay.
why I sample, but you are right. I mean, it
It's in
comes
a
out
pipe.
of there,
It's in a
you're
big pipe.
getting a little more surface water.
Yep.
It was just to
Where's Hannah
alleviate.
Park, is it?
It's right
Hannah Park
behind
is-
on,
it's like
just
off
to
of
the west
Ravina.
of 7th.
So right in here?
Yeah,
It's kind of
yeah.
off
Just
Ravina, right?
seven.
There's a little path through there, a little
Right.
walking path.
Yeah.
So, it's a tough spot to get to. I mean, it's hard to get in there.
Let's move on.
Absolutely.
Anyway.
Then I have just something that's not on the agenda that I just received. Again, Gelman has identified which we require them or ask them to do, that they're going to be shutting down some of the pumping wells. There'll be 4, TW19, TW23.
Most.
Oh, I'm sorry. Related to completion, of some more work at the Porter Street pumping station. They had, if you remember, they upgraded that station. They had a lot of temporary hookups and bypasses to keep things moving or put things back online. So they're going to, starting this Wednesday, they're going to do some finalization of some of the piping, take out some temporary bypass, and installation of some new piping at the Porter Street House station.
So what'd you say the wells were?
LB4, LB19, and LB4, TW19, and TW23. So they're over from the Evergreen and the Maple Road area are the extraction wells that they're going to shut down for a couple of days.
So this is pumping that's going on here.
Right.
And some at the Maple Road too?
Yes, 19 and 23 there.
Because, and this is something I haven't been able to map yet, but there's pipelines that go from Maple Road and maybe along Valley or something to connect with the Phase 2 pipeline that goes back through the core.
To the Porter Street station.
And ends up, here, at least I have this part of it done, but it's 90 to 100 feet deep transmission pipeline.
Yes.
Back to Porter Street. So because they're doing some work here, they have to temporarily terminate pumping here and here. Because of course they have no
capacity, there's no alternate.
No alternate way.
To discharge or
to transmit it back. Yeah.
So as we've asked them to do, they are keeping me informed of when things will be down, and I will be informed of when it's back online.
It's going to be just a couple days.
Yes, this week. Again, I'm sure weather dependent. You know, they're dealing with water and pipes and stuff, so depending on the weather. And they estimated it'd take 2 to 3 days.
After defrost it first. After the polar vortex.
Yes, so that's that. I received that, what, 4th yesterday? Was that? Yeah. So again, that's what it usually happens when they have something with the system. They let me know, and I keep track of it. They will also, just so people realize it, on the monthly reports, NPDS reports, and the quarterly reports, they'll identify when things are shut down. When, you know, for example, electrical power shortage or outage, or a storm, or a mechanical failure where it lasted a couple hours. They don't call me every time that for an hour and a half the system was down at this well, but they do list it in those reports, so it's kept track of and can be tracked. And then the last item is really, I don't have a information other than, as everybody knows, they're.
So what do you call yourselves now?
Eagle.
Eagle.
The reorganization of the DEQ to the Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy. That occurred yesterday, and we really don't have, you know, haven't worked out information as things transition into these into the new department, and then also, as was identified yesterday, some of the they've changed some of the committees and stuff that were enacted during the lame duck.
And made some, at least one of them, more permanent, the PFAS thing.
Right.
So,
I mean, I can give a list if you want.
Yeah.
I mean, quickly go through the list. So Executive Order 2 established the Interagency Environmental Justice Response Team, which is similar to the PFAS Action Response Team, but for environmental justice. An environmental justice ombudsman's position, an establishment of the Clean Water Public Advocate, the establishment of the Office of Climate and Energy, which has a lot of the functions from the former energy or agency on energy will move there. The transfer of the Office of Great Lakes back to DEGE. The abolishment of the detrimental oversight panel. Well, yeah, that's paraphrasing someone else's statement, but they got rid of the oversight panels established under the Snyder administration. Executive Order number 3 created the Michigan PFAS Action Response Team again after it was dissolved at the end of the Snyder administration. It's an executive order, not an executive directive. It is structured to fit into this our new agency, thus not an office. It should be long-standing. The emphasis is on increasing transparency within MPART. And then Executive Directive 12 is responding to climate change. Michigan will join the U.S. Climate Alliance. Michigan will join the Paris Climate Agreement. Establishes mandatory tracking and reporting and accelerates new and existing policies with respect to clean energy and diminishing carbon.
So I wanted to ask. Yeah, thanks for that. I just wanted to ask, most of the staff who've been involved in this are pretty much staying on. We don't see any major card people.
Oh, no, that's.
Oh, yeah, no, this doesn't really affect
So
us.
I see people in the room here from the DEQ that look familiar, which is good.
There's no sweat on their foreheads. So.
Yeah, no,
I'm just wondering if there's major changes for staff members who've been involved in this.
We don't.
Nothing.
We don't think so, but
Okay,
I mean, it
great.
only came out yesterday, so how things are
We haven't had a ton of
enacted.
time. But the way that the governor wishes to address drinking water is obviously different under this.
Right.
So we expected there would be more communication, not less, with specific to drinking water issues that we specifically come across in our day-to-day.
Mm-hmm.
And the environmental justice one is a really good one in my mind as well. So.
Mm-hmm. Good. No, I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah. Now is it DEQ still? DEQ GLE or is it DEGLE?
No, it's
You
EAGLE.
have an acronym yet?
It's EAGLE.
It's
Well,
EAGLE is the
heard
acronym
EAGLE.
I've been told.
Yep,
EAGLE's the
yeah.
acronym.
So that would be
You know, Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy, Eagle.
So just
Department-
EGLE?
Yeah.
If you just like with the,
Okay,
you know,
drop
Department
the
of
D.
Environmental, but I just heard Eagle the other
Which is
day.
convenient, a convenient acronym.
Eagle.
Rather than saying Deagle,
That's what I
they just said Eagle. It
Did
sounds
anybody-
better when you
did
say
anybody
Eagle.
think this through before? Here, I love Eagle.
So,
Eagle's
Yeah.
good.
Of course, the bad PR in that is that you've dropped the quality part.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm
But
hopeful.
that's just a marketing issue.
But yes, we don't believe that you know, our office in particular or how we operate on this project changes.
Good, okay. A lot of knowledge there.
What about at the AG side? You got any opinion on that?
We'll remind you, this is on tape.
That's why I'm just laughing.
Good response.
It's good that you're smiling.
I'd just like to say that the city council's policy agenda committee, which I sit on, is made it a top priority to work with the state, push the state on these issues, continue to ask our local reps and our state and federal reps to get involved and assist the AG's office as necessary and keep these things moving forward. It just seems like everything's been positive lately. I'm really happy about it.
So what committee is that?
We have a city council policy agenda.
Policy
We set the
agenda
policy
committee.
agenda for 2 years in keeping with our budget cycles. And we prioritize what our policy agenda is. And obviously water is at the top of that list.
So is there any city staff member here today?
Yeah, Brian's here.
Oh, okay.
Yes, thanks for coming, Brian. I'm going to be meeting with Brian Thursday, right? And make sure they're both caught up with what's going
Great.
on with this.
Great. Good to see.
For what, a couple hours? Is that how much time you've assigned? Because that's what which is a short period of time, but I don't know how much you know. And we'll go back and forth.
All right, to keep it moving, any other questions of her DEQ?
Yes.
For the
What
updates?
about interface with the EPA? Is anything, any stuff with that as far as your department?
As far as interfacing, I mean, like I've talked with just a update talk last week when we were in the vortex here and I was home. He was off because of the government shutdown.
Really?
Yeah, they were off, and so once he got back, he just happened to call when we were shut down last week. And so, but we just touch bases since he was off. Again, he's what he has voiced in past meetings. He's going to be continuing to be involved for the EPA.
So you have a quarterly report?
We have a quarterly report. We discussed a little bit about that. My plan is to sometime in March get that quarterly report out. This one, we have it'll be a similar type quarterly report, but we have, as we verbally identified, do some trend analysis, and I have already approached Gelman to request that they, that I'm going to be want to put in some trend analysis on specific, particular monitoring wells, selected monitoring wells, and ask them for assistance. And basically, have identified that I think it's a positive thing. With your assistance, we can, if we are going to have it in the report, and if you don't do it, then I'm going to do it, and you may not like what I do.
How are you picking those wells?
Related to what the current CJ is on key areas of that people have identified as concerns for contaminant migration, whether it's within the PZ, related to the western area objective of non-expansion, those types of things. I will point. I'll make it clear that I mean, this report will not have trend analysis on 300+ wells that we currently have. That's just not. I can't physically do that. So we will take in the different locations, eastern area, western area, along the edges of the prohibition zone. We will come up with some key well locations that would give useful information if there are trends. And I'm working with the EPA has, in the sense that they have suggested some statistical analyses that may be useful for the trend analysis, what they've done at other Superfund sites. So I will be utilizing that information.
So did they volunteer that, or did you ask them for suggestions?
It was kind of a mutual
during
a phone call, that the trend, this is, related after, if you remember the first one, was the trend was mainly the, some historical graphs of selected wells the last 2 quarterly reports ago. So we're going to try to get some analytical evaluation, if you want to say, of some of those same wells.
I know it hasn't been going on for very long, but would you consider the relationship between MDQ and the EPA on this project beneficial to this point? It seems like it.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't butted heads.
Yeah, great, good.
I mean, it's, they've made a commitment to the community. We can have a good good working relationship.
Good.
So.
Well, we have standing with EPA. We're on other site monitoring or something. I forget what they called it. Classified this site as other whatever.
It's purgatory.
Purgatory.
It's like a not NPL.
Yes.
Not NPL. That's
somewhere
not
between heaven and
we're
hell.
not been adopted, but we'll get into that a little bit later today. Anyway. So,
Thanks,
are you,
Dan.
is that it, Dan?
That's all I have.
Thanks.
Anybody have any questions?
I just encourage you to share what those wells are going to be as a draft with us, so that we can weigh in case we have reason to believe there might be a better addition or two. I mean, you say you can't do a full analysis on all 300, 400 wells, but we'd like to know more about what modeling is actually being done by someone somewhere, if any, because we've got a pretty good set of data of how dioxane-like compounds move through Michigan water, but we're really not utilizing that data to learn about why do some wells go up and down, why do some wells shoot up and level off, why do some wells drop suddenly. What does that mean for the contamination in that particular area? It seems like there's there's some information there that we're not gleaning out because we're not doing full analysis. I'm not saying that the DEQ should be doing that necessarily because they have limited resources. But you know, I almost wish that somebody was doing that. I know Larry Lemke has done some of that with this.
Is he still involved in looking
Yeah,
at this
in
site?
fact, in my update, I'll talk about a little bit about that. There's some dispersion analysis that have been done on compounds like this. And dispersion and redispersion. And he's actually got an article in for peer review that's going to come out in a few months. It's going to relate to that. I mean, again, we're not getting information right away, but at least we know that it's in the pipeline, and we'll see what happens.
So I'm going to make a comment later about the Allen's Creek test too, as well.
All right, so any more questions for the DEQ? Thanks for giving that update.
Yes, thank you, Dan.
Thanks to everybody for coming. It's going to be interesting to see how policies change and maybe legislative action changes with the new administration. This is the first time in 25 years that both the governor and the AG are more proactive on environmental protection. So 25 years, things have been bouncing back, flipping back and forth. Now we're getting back to maybe doing more protection of groundwater and drinking water, which is, as far as I'm concerned, a good thing, because I'm, like all of you, about 2/3 water. And acting accordingly.
Well, I'm not 2/3 water.
You gotta hydrate.
You're not 2/3 water? How do you, your cells are about 2/3 water. You know, your brain is even more. So if you're saying you're not 2/3 water, that means you even have less brain than average.
That's what I've been telling my wife.
Careful what you're asking for. Anyway, so I've got a whole bunch of things here. I'm not going to go through all of them. It'll suffice to say that I'm really concerned about having a complete, accurate, up-to-date, reliable database that can be used by all stakeholders. And I say that just about every meeting, but now that we have some change in administration, maybe that will finally happen. It's going to take a little bit of work on somebody's, on the DEQ, GOE, or the Eagle side to pull this off, but it's doable because I know it's doable. I did it for 40 years, pulling information from different sources and not losing data. We have lost, ignored, and undigitized data for this site. And what century are we in? Why are we not? Why does not all data be electronic from now on? So it can be easily shared and analyzed and pulled up. So that's my weekly, monthly grant. We need a well-boring database of the information that's gathered during the boring of the wells. Some of this exists. Kevin, you've done some of this. But it should be in a form that can be linked to the other sampling database. Doesn't have to, it should not be in the same sampling database. And you know, the original database, there are a few wells that government put in that made it look like it's part of normal sampling. No, that was sampling that was done during boring. And to their credit, they got rid of those in their new database, which of course we no longer have access to because, so if you go back and look, I think you'll find in the DEQ's database from 2010, it still has some of those mixed up samples that we've taken during boring that really should be a separate database. So there's a little cleanup like that to do. I'm concerned about the reduced sampling especially at the core, where there's almost no shallow sampling being done, at least none that we have access to. We know that the county got some permits from the company to do shallower sampling at the core. What was that, Jenny?
They applied for soil borings and well permits.
In 2016, something like that. And we have yet to get any data for that. We have yet to get any work plan.
You found a Google image.
Well, that's the only way I knew about it.
So then we have information that indicates that there was sampling done there.
Yeah, and in fact, the later Google images show that those truck paths have changed. So it's almost like there's something permanent going on there. We don't know if they're trying in situ treatment on the marshy site. Well, then again, let's pull that back up here.
I don't think it's on the site anymore. Last I checked, couldn't show anything.
Oh, well, no, one of the later ones did show.
Okay. Do a screenshot of that.
Yeah, well, just a second. I'm going to turn this off. Well, I guess I can leave this up because this shows where we're talking about this parcel right here that encompasses the marshy area. You kind of see the purple here in the background. This is property that Gelman had to buy because it was polluted. So now it's part of their property. This, and all this back here.
So who did that sampling? Who got the permit? Was that Donaher or
no? It was
Paul.
It was the Gelman entity.
Was it?
Yeah. I mean, they're all the same. You know.
Well, I just technically who was on that.
And maybe if I turn off this over here, you probably see the pathways. Gelman splits. Turn that off. And if I turn off the so you kind of see here's some pathways. These are different than the pathways that were there a couple years ago. Anybody have any information on these pathways? I mean, it almost looks, if you zoom in, it doesn't look like truck mats anymore. These almost look like they're gravel or crushed stone or something.
It's fenced off, right?
Huh?
I think it's fenced off too.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing.
A lot. I've tried to walk here.
Yeah, when Danaher took over, they fenced off all their property. So you can't just walk through like you used to be able to.
Who's got a drone now to fly into the?
Well, you can actually. You know, to fly on a drone. But that doesn't matter.
No, the cameraman, he said he has a drone.
Well, we have drones.
Well, you might want to check that out.
But we're not advocating people flying over property because you have to have the permission of the property owner to fly over. On the other hand, you can fly nearby and shoot obliquely. Or you can just use publicly available images like this.
So how old is this image? Is this current?
Well, it has down here on the bottom.
2018.
It looks like, what's the date on this?
7518.
Yeah, so this, yeah, there you go.
Pardon? Yeah.
So nobody knows what's going on here in this room. Is that right?
Have I seen one?
Nobody at the DEQ knows? Have you been out there? Anybody at the DEQ seen any of this?
Have you seen the camera hut out there? I was up there last week, and they got a little hut there on the site, and it's got a ring of cameras on it.
Where here?
Right there, come
The
down.
whole entire area is locked
Right there.
down with no trespassing signs.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a little camera hut there, and
Right
it's got
across.
this big rig
This
on
is
the
where
roof,
the
and
tank-
it's got, it's
Oh,
just
You're
really
talking
nice.
about
No,
on
I
their
mean,
property,
Yeah,
on their
yeah.
building here property.
No, it's that little one just up above the retention pond there.
Up above.
Yeah,
Yeah, right there, yeah.
Really?
It's pretty wild, yeah.
Well, they don't want anybody sneaking in and dumping dioxin.
Yeah, they don't want any pollution on the site. You know.
I mean, I
I'm
would do
awful
the same
dumping.
thing if I were them. Anyway, so it's interesting that
Still no data,
Again,
no data from that sample.
we have no idea what's
Okay.
going on here.
Yeah.
This is not the original parcel. This is off-site, and we don't know what's going on there. Well, it's not off-site now because they bought this property and all of this property over here. We have no idea what's going on as far as sampling. We did get an inkling of it, you know, because I happened to notice this on a earlier Google. But from now on, Jenny, anybody else in county and city, township, if there's anything related to Gallman, I think CARD should know about it ahead of time, rather than waiting for the Google Earth images.
You mean like a permit pulled for work on the site or anything?
Right, right. And somebody at the county knows that, because in the comments on the permit, it actually said Gallman. So there should be a way to extract that periodically. Have there been any Gallman? Because this has happened in the past where a low-level person got a permit, and then at the same time, like the county board had a resolution opposing this kind of sampling, and yet that kind of sampling permit was being issued and the well was being drilled. This happened back in the 90s up at Miller Road, when they were going to dump 100 or more parts per billion into the tribute, into the Honey Creek. And all the local governments were against it, the county was against it. And yet the permit got pulled and the well got installed before it was known. And that kind of thing, you know, causes confusion and problems and probably
So
legal
who
issues.
should they contact in CARD?
Well, you can just email to the CARD court report to me, to the CARD, to me or to any of the officers.
As a property owner, they're afforded the same privacy and steps that anyone else would take, so they're
Well,
not
not really.
flagged to have to notify
Not if
the
there's
county.
Not if you're in a court case. Not if there's a threat to public health and safety.
They are allowed to apply for soil borings and wells on their property the same as anyone else in South
Related to
Township.
public health and safety.
Well, and also, that's public knowledge. I believe.
After they've been issued, they are.
Right.
Right.
Or you could FOIA the information at your.
It's not like you're denying it, it's just that, okay, there were these permits pulled, and that should be public, I mean, it
It
is
is
public
publicly
knowledge.
available as public.
But to make the extra step of saying, alerting people who need to know that this has happened, I think would be
And
good. Not that it's gonna stop anything, but we could
No, stop.
influence the,
It's not appropriate in this context.
Well, I think the CARD group should be notified somehow, and not we find out by seeing it on Google Earth. That's totally inappropriate.
yeah, months later.
Yes, so if
Many
it's
months.
public knowledge, you know, if it's private, that's one thing. If it's public knowledge, I think if CARD is going to be a resource, we need to be given information that would
We're
help us.
letting a private company dictate how this cleanup is going on.
As a big FOIA user myself prior to my election, I mean, I don't know how the county's set up for FOIA, but the city has a very simple process, an online form, and perhaps somebody on the CARD board should take it upon themselves to routinely FOIA anything related to this site.
But you don't even have to fight.
Yes, you can.
Yeah,
You can do an ongoing FOIA request.
I don't want to burden the county with FOIA
I've
requests,
already
but
future.
I think that's the process.
Is, yeah,
You
no,
can
it's
do
an
that.
online form and it's a, you
So
know,
the-
set process.
Roger, there's no system in place right now, apart from a FOIA, to really compel them to tell us when something's going
How
on.
about if we said, please, can you notify us?
Well, we get a better result
Well,
just by
you
establishing an
wouldn't
ongoing
intentionally
FOIA for the
pull
site,
it
I
back, though,
believe,
would
and it
you?
would probably be less burdensome.
No, nobody would
intentionally hold
intentionally.
anything back.
That would
I
be
mean,
the same with style?
I've communicated everything going on.
Well, this
inside
Gelman, I mean, this
that I know about.
this Google event was pretty
I know.
that Roger just happened to see it and it went away not that much longer later.
Well, they update these images. The images are still there. You can actually go back.
Well, whatever. If you're just kind of glancing at the site to see something, you wanted to look at something, and then boom, there's this change that showed they were sampling. And we asked at the CARD meeting, what's the sampling about, and when will we get the results? And we're still waiting.
Well, and we almost didn't get the information at the CARD meeting, because you remember, I think,
the AG's office?
Yeah, I think Brian actually said, well, you know, this is a negotiation. If anybody's going to get in trouble, it might as well be me.
Yeah.
And then once he said something, then Mitch chimed in and says,
I'm
yeah.
listening.
Mitch said, yeah, there's this sampling that's been going on, and we have no work plan. We don't know where they're sampling or how deep and when it's going to be done. And so this is all out of the public eye, except for what we can see with our own eyes.
We try to treat everybody the same way when it comes to county permitting. We're not going to hold up permits for anyone.
We're not asking for that.
It's going to be the same.
We're just asking for notification.
Every entity the same way, and
you have to do it
for you. So maybe I'll ask you how to do that at some point.
And SIO X allows for standing FOIA policy also?
Well, but we can.
It's commonplace everywhere.
Yeah. Well,
We don't even have to, I mean, if the FOIA causes more problems for the county.
it's not a problem. You can FOIA any information. We also have a website with an online form, and it's pretty
If we have an ongoing FOIA, that means, you know, no termination date, because we don't know when this is going to be terminated. Would you then have an easy way to say, okay, just pull all the Gelman permits?
Well, I can maybe help you craft that offline.
No, but I want to know.
It's tied to a parcel number or a property address.
So you have to still do what the public does in order to
keywords
search.
and
You don't
dates.
have a way to globally search.
I do not. Not even internally. Nope.
Okay, go talk to somebody else about that.
We'll help you. I'll help you craft those requests.
Because from a data processing standpoint, that doesn't sound right.
It works.
I mean, I could see if you have, okay, here's a list of all their parcels and parcels they used to have.
Well, this you know, the city has
and we do a
FOIA
global
Watcher.
search, a global
We are just another department. We're not in equalization. They can buy, sell, split parcels. We're not notified of that. So
I know
again,
it's not your job, but it is our job as a unified set of local governments and stakeholders to know everything there is to know about the Gelman situation. That's why when I spoke at City Council meeting last night in public comment, I said, you know, Governor Whitmer issued a directive for all staff to speak up and follow through if there's anything related to health and safety. That permeates all the way down to all staff. And I urged all local governments to do the same thing so that there's peer-to-peer communication and things like that. And that the public entity like CARD also knows. So we can take action and advocate for at least knowing what the work plan is. In urging, putting pressure on to do better sampling, get the data sooner rather than later. You know, every moment that we delay things, dioxin is moving. And, you know, after 26 years, I'm really getting tired of this kind of action. But now that, like I said, 25 years, it's been 25 years since we've had.
Do you have any more updates, Roger?
Policy. I probably do. Is that my 25 minutes?
Yeah. Well, you don't have to use them all.
Well, we have to be out of here by noon. And
But we have 45 minutes, so.
Yeah, but he has to do his equipment.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we have
So
to allow for
we're a
that.
little early now.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure Vince doesn't get squashed at the end, like, 'cause you're usually
Like,
run out of time. Yeah.
Another major thing, of course, and I'm sure Dan's going to put this up soon. the database that I use to build my annual Google Earth mashup that I've been using.
It's a great effect.
Right now, the data that's available in the DEQ's access data, the Eagle's access data, is November 2018. We know you already have the December data. You've had that for a month. But it hasn't been put into access yet. Are you concerned about the access? You said you might have to update or switch to another database. Or
that hasn't come across yet.
So that's not the delay.
You hit right up against my staff time, my time.
Right.
Things have been happening with related to Allen Creek Drain. I get the data about of the month before, so I got the data around in second week in January is when I get the data.
So how long does it take you to update?
Well, I mean, physically do it. You know, within an hour I can have it done. But then I send that database to someone
to post it here.
To post it on the web page. Mm-hmm. Okay, so this after the first and beginning of 2019 has been very hectic for me, and frankly, I just haven't been able to get it up to get it on. And then you're gonna, depending on her schedule, you're gonna have a delay. She can get it up usually sometimes within a couple days, or sometime within a couple weeks, because she's an IT person in the RRD. She's doing multi-tasks, and again, posting on the database is not a time critical as far as what other things have jumped up, and especially now with the new transition into the new administration. So this particular time, you know, your point here, yeah, I just haven't got that. No, I haven't got the December available to her yet. So.
Right. And with the shutdown and the polar vortex and everything.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So yeah, and
wrench into the works.
And it's
and I make them do other work.
Yeah.
I do make them do other work.
If you guys want to talk to him,
do we advocate for an assistant for you?
Yeah.
I would urge you to spend that hour.
For more staff.
Yeah, we are. I mean, and I want to make it clear to my other staff at the Jackson District Office. I handle Gelman, but we are busy with, particularly with PFAS. Washtenaw County is a very, very active county with different sites. Yes.
Yeah, I don't want to spend an hour talking about this. I want you to spend an hour doing it sometimes.
I just haven't done it. I haven't done it. I checked it last night. Make sure I had all my stuff. I go through some steps. I've done a couple of the steps, but I just haven't put it in the database.
I don't want to go backwards, but you mentioned the other testing where you're talking about the Allen Creek drain testing you're going to do for a larger slate than just the dioxin testing in there.
Yes.
And since you uttered the magic acronym PFAS, is that going to be part of the testing?
No.
Okay. Good.
Well,
Just,
the test
I feel like I had to ask.
The test you did before that you displayed, like behind my house, for example, did have a full slate of
Yes, they
chemical.
did. Yes, they did. And
great
basically, I will be sending out that as a lab data sheet. I haven't put that in to the old access database. Basically, what's in our access database is dioxin and stuff. So for me to do that, the full scans, I'm not the database person. It would take me several years to figure that, not figure it out, but I will be sending out the full scan, and we did that. That's how that way.
That's great.
I may be able to do some type of just spreadsheet quickly, a smaller spreadsheet related to volatile organics other than dioxane, but it's not going to be in the database specific.
But no PFAS.
No, PFAS is not on the is not going to be a contaminant that will be sampled.
All right. Well, I'm just going to wrap up and reiterate that I would like to see all people do their due diligence at all levels in every entity, so that we have a tighter set of communication and information infrastructure, so we can make better decisions. And that goes for, and there's decisions being made by different entities that might have come out different, or might have been more reliable had they had access to the same set of information. It's frustrating for a Alice who maybe in the city or something who's, you know, oh, this other issue came up and it kind of touches on the Gellman situation. I'm thinking like a Lockwood when there's infiltration issues. And they don't have the information that's out there and that's available. And they can dismiss concerns but they do it under uncertainty. And if we can reduce the uncertainty, I think we're going to have better information and people are going to trust the analysis results more if we've considered all the information. It's not good to walk into a review and have somebody point out that, well, there's this other information you should have considered.
Can I add to that too? We have a lot of people who contact us who moved to the area, lived here their whole lives and have no idea that the plume is still
Exactly.
there. So we're always looking for better ways to reach out to folks. Not everyone knows of CARD or comes to CARD or can come to the meetings or even knows to look online for the recorded meeting. So if anyone has any ideas for ways other than MLive, because Ryan Stanton was covering those pretty good, but other ways, do we need to send out fact sheets? Who should we send them out to? Info updates, how's the best way to do that? Do people want print media? Is there a different way to do it?
We almost
We're
need
always
a
open to
subgroup
that.
to deal with that because what I don't want to have happen are somebody says, well, I know exactly what we'll do. We'll set up a website. And then, like the TOS situation a few years ago. And then their funding ran out. And even the website's not available anymore, but there was good information there that should be incorporated into an ongoing thing. And how do we do this over 100 years or 200 years? That's the issue.
So the city of Ann Arbor, when it sends out its bills, water bills, and we've talked about this in city meetings, they actually have an information sheet they include. So if the county sends out any kind of billing, that would be one option to provide information about where they can get information, what websites, you know, any major changes. So the city does that, and they are very active at trying to figure out, okay, what's the best content. It's only one page, it's a double-sided sheet.
Yeah, but you're not
going
to...
They talk about the Water Matters newsletter. Yeah. And we can get things added to that. So the question is, when we do that, where do we direct them? And also, are we going to be able to, like for the CARD, like for SRSW or the CARD page and Washtenaw, do you guys keep statistics? Like, do we know if we are successful in driving people to this information? Because otherwise, you gotta know if you're having success with this PR efforts.
And you don't want to inundate the general public on new minutia. You know, you want to say here's an important thing that just happened, but on a routine basis, you say if you need to know about this Gellman issue, here's a site you can go through and get the overview. You can dive deep and get all this other.
So I've generally been sending people to SRSW and the CARD site and our water quality reports. I get a lot of.
Right.
It's a hot topic for me right now.
My goal, again, for the next year is to kind of pull this together, either at the CARD website or something else, some other entity that owns it, that where we can have information from different, you know, like the city has information, the DEQ has certain information, the county has certain information,
Township.
SRSW has certain information. You know, who's responsible for which piece of information, and have it all linked together so we're not doing redundancy where you can end up with old information competing with later information. So we know exactly where to go to, where the official repository of certain sets of information are. Start with that, and then it might grow organically from that. But so maybe we should think about soon this year having a subgroup, and who here would be interested in working on that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we got 4. So you know, and I'm gonna pull in the city because he's not raising his hand yet, but because he's got other jobs. But do you realize? I don't know if you know this yet, but you're actually getting some staff help this year. You probably heard that.
No.
Yeah, I heard it from the city manager.
Relating to water quality?
No, to his department,
Oh.
to relating to the government.
Okay.
Because, you know, he's a director of the department head or something, right? I mean,
Manager water.
yeah, and to have this thrown on you without additional, somebody to really concentrate on it, it's gotta be stressful. So,
Our finished water and our water treatment process has never had that. And
Right.
so,
right, we gotta
this
keep
is
that.
adjunct to your primary responsibilities, as I see right now. People are asking me about PFAS, that's all I want to know about. So they must be a hot topic.
Yeah, and the more we know about the dioxin, the better we can deal with
Yeah,
the
I agree,
PFAS issue.
I agree.
Right, anyway,
And
I'm done.
I found out yesterday, and Kathy might be able to elaborate, that there will be a town hall meeting hosted by South Township on March 7th.
Anything about it?
Okay, very little, except that we'll have someone there
Really?
talking about dioxine and PFAS.
Will you share that with the card list, please, when you find out about that?
I will distribute it when I find out more information.
What's the
March
date?
7th.
Where is it?
I heard Representative Lazinski was coordinating it, and we were under the impression it was at South Township Hall.
I'll
but-
text Bryce right
It is, and if I could find my.
Got it on your calendar?
The 7th in the evening?
That's what I'm talking about right there.
I only found out yesterday too. I don't even know what time or.
It's
who's
very
on the
difficult to
agenda.
stay on top of all this.
But it's gonna be
This is what I
pretty close
have,
to the next
don't
card.
quote me, I'm on the panel. It says March 7th, 6 to 7:30 at South Township. It's an upcoming Clean Water Town Hall.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the dates though.
March
7th.
7th, 6 to 7:30 at South Township Town Hall, or South Township Hall.
Cool.
And is this for the county or just for Scioto Township? Theoretically.
I believe SIO.
It's mainly a SIO effort.
Anyone
Well,
would be invited.
Right.
I know.
Yeah.
I
But what are they
understand.
covering?
Well, it says, we are in the process of putting together a panel of local experts who can speak to the status, health concerns, and possible solutions regarding PFAS and dioxin in our drinking water, as well as other water-related questions that might come up during the Q&A. Are you interested in being a panel?
So is there going to be a presentation or just minimal?
I mean, HRWC had one out at Washtenaw Community College. It was pretty well attended. They had a nice slide deck for that.
Who's
I'll say
organizing
the
this?
only information I have right now is just be there.
Who's organizing it?
Lazinski?
The DEQ, I mean, the Eagle?
No.
No one is. This was,
State Rep
was, the
Lazinski.
state rep reached
Oh,
out to
state
me
rep.
and asked if I wanted to be on the panel.
Okay.
I also sent them to the county to make sure, and the state health department to make sure they had representation from them as well.
Okay.
So you got the email from Donna Lazinski?
Oh, gosh. I hope I'm not.
I think technically we were notified by the state.
Well,
health
it's a state,
department.
this is from someone in the House. Organizer of the Michigan House Democratic Communications, is what it says.
Okay.
It's probably
Oh,
not.
so they instigated it.
I'll follow up.
Becca Mayer, sorry. Becca Mayer. That's who initiated the email I got.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay, so I'll go
You're
ahead
on.
and make some comments. So I think with the change in our state government, we should be, my opinion, I think the CARD group would support it, that we should be lobbying our representatives, state representatives, as well as the governor to reevaluate the Superfund future study that the former governor basically blocked and was the main obstacle to getting a full evaluation or getting started on a full evaluation. I think that Gretchen Whitmer probably would support it, but I don't know that. But I plan on contacting our representatives to also lobby the governor. And the CARD group probably should discuss at some point what options we want to, all or part of an EPA Superfund, or the state money that's been set aside for water quality. I think it's close to 100 million. I forget how much the dollar amount is, or 60.
You mean the allocation from this year?
Yeah.
It was 61 million, but it's not all designated specifically for like our type of program.
Okay, but
Some
it's
go to
environmental.
Recycling, some go to brownfield, some go
Okay.
to some other
It's
stuff.
a general environmental thing, right, related to.
Correct, and it's supposed to be an
water quality.
ongoing one,
Yeah.
not just a 1 year, here's money, good luck. don't
Whether
go
we
down.
would like to petition to get some of that money. And then the other thing, I'll have Jeff talk about maybe a city effort is being considered. Jeff has been in talks, but I'm not sure what he could disclose, but whatever you can, tell us, we'd appreciate it.
Well, just, I mean, as you might know, and we even see it here in these meetings, there's a lot of interest in these issues, and its interest is growing. So we're kicking around ideas to, now that we have some better representation, I mean, relatively better representation at the state level, we're kicking around ideas to push harder for a cleanup of this. There's been all kinds of people come forward with different ideas of, is there another way to get the polluter in court on another issue? Can we, what would a cleanup cost? What would a cleanup look like? What would be a plan moving forward if we said, hey, we got all the money in the world to do this cleanup, what are we gonna do? And who do we bring in and how do we work on that? And so, we don't have all the money in the world and we want the polluter to pay. But there is genuine concern that we have waited too long and we want to act. I guess I'll leave it at that. But I've had a lot of people come to me with a lot of good ideas and ask me to help facilitate and ask questions on their behalf. And I've had people offer to, where do I write a check? Who needs promotional efforts? What can we do to help you out?
That's great.
SRSW donation page.
Well, you got to be a 501. Are you a 501?
501c3.
Okay, well, I'm going to take that back to them then, because that might be a situation where you get a little funding to create a.
Well, you could donate the card too.
Yeah, to
Card
create a
is
gateway page or some kind of
fiduciary
educational effort or something.
To the county.
No, not to them.
It's just.
Not to the county.
Yeah, not through the
Separate.
county probably.
Well,
And so, anyway, this is the kind of thing that's been going on since I took office, and people know I'm interested in water issues, and so they're coming to me and offering to help. And so I want to know what can I do to help. What can I do to facilitate a cleanup if that's something that people want?
Well, this is definitely an intergovernmental.
Yeah, it's
We
complex.
almost need like an authority that's funded by the different levels of government to take over some of this advocation action. SRSW works on a bare bones budget. We don't want $1,000. We don't want anybody contribute $1,000, because then the IRS gets at us and says, you have one person that contributed 80% of your budget. No, we want $5, $10, $20, at minimal. We don't want any big checks, because it screws us up. We don't have paid staff. We're all volunteers. Could get paid staff, but then we'd have to get a lot more donors. And so if you're gonna tell people about contributing to SRSW, keep it small. The numbers are good, but the money doesn't matter.
I've never heard that before.
That's because you've never had to deal with the IRS dealing with
well, a little bit.
nonprofits.
Well, I'll just also add that in conversations with some people in the city, there was some talk of potentially, court case, a takings court case that might have some merit, that the city could get a class of folks who've been affected by this.
There was a class action lawsuit on this site years ago, and I think it just got dismissed. But one of the things I asked you for last night was to have, maybe the city could take a lead on this. What are all the court cases that related to the Gelman situation? And not just DEQ and Gelman and the state of Gelman, but Gelman and their insurance company, Gelman and
Neighbors in my neighborhood.
So I'm doing some GIS
There were a
work.
lot.
We have a lot of good GIS data thanks to the county and our IT department and our planning and assessor's office. And so I'm doing a bunch of GIS work to help visualize things for our budget cycle that's coming up. And one of the things I did was I put in a request to take our map and to overlay the plume map and to take all the properties that fall inside that estimated plume outline and,
Like a list.
and generate a list of these properties. And the anticipation is that all these properties might be contacted and interested in joining a class against the polluter. That's something I've heard. People have said that they think it's they would have standing under unlawful takings.
Takings of our
the property value.
Property value on groundwater.
And the groundwater, but nobody's pulling groundwater in that zone, and so these people aren't on wells in the city. And so it's just a property value issue.
Well, the other issue is getting contaminated groundwater in your basement, which we have a lot of wet basements.
Yeah, and there's that too.
Yeah.
And so the idea is that, you know, this was floated, and if this class gets together, and it's a substantial amount of properties, I'll tell you that.
Right.
It's
Oh
a
yeah,
lot.
absolutely. Yeah.
And you know, but I don't want to encourage any kind of behaviors on the part of the resident that's going to derail something that's already moving forward in a good way.
Right.
And so these are just the kinds of things we're
but the
trying
first
to
part
balance.
of what you
know?
said is relevant. Like,
Yeah.
there are certain information that other entities have that could be linked to on the city and the county's GIS system. Some of that's already there. The prohibition zone is already there. But again, it shows the whole prohibition zone, not which part was expanded and not which part was extracted for. So, you know, if we're going to do that kind of information linking, that should be part of a review to say what's the best way to do that so it's always up to date and it's complete. You know,
We have some of that information too if you need assistance in the future. Like we have the old PZ boundary already in GIS.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna reach out to you. It was just one of my many lists of visualizations for the budget process, because we're looking at, what I really was looking at is taxable versus non-taxable properties in the city of Ann Arbor, because we have a large amount of non-taxable square footage, square miles.
U of M property.
Yeah, U of M, the
About
schools,
20%.
the city, the nonprofits and all that, and we're bringing forth a pilot program in the spring.
And they just bought Fingerly.
For all nonprofits to consider voluntarily entering a payment in lieu of taxes for a portion of the public charges that they're now exempt from.
Yep.
And that would include all nonprofits, and we give them an opportunity, like Boston did that, and the 47 largest institutions in Boston
Rhode Island
participated.
did it too,
Yeah, Rhode Island did it,
Northwestern.
and when Dr. Schlissel was at Brown, they had one.
Here's
And
what he's
so-
talking about.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's the U of M property.
Yeah, and so it
About 20%
represents a
of the city.
substantial portion. And that's just the university, and we're not targeting the university, it's all nonprofits have an opportunity.
Why not?
And then they have then we give them a formula to reduce their tax to the public good that they do already, and then we say, here's the amount that you might be asked to voluntarily give. It's all voluntary. There are statutory pilot programs, but, and then one of the other things, this is off the topic, so another time, but we're also saying that we might create funds, and they can decide where their voluntary payments go into what funds. So people are interested in water, people are interested in poverty issues, transportation issues, environmental issues, and it might make it more amenable to get people into this. It's just, we're looking for revenue is what's going on.
Back to Vince, is there, I mean, I know my representatives and stuff, but what kind of format would you want residents to send, and what are
Well,
we basically
I wonder if the
requesting?
CARD group should ask to sit down with our representatives at some point and lobby them to work with the state administration as to what opportunities we have with Superfund. I think, in my opinion, I think the CARD group is supporting a Superfund effort, but we need to, approach our new legislators and our new governor and educate them as to where the status is now, what the potential status could be, and what we support, generally speaking. And I think, we have, the township supported it, the Sierra Club supported it, CARD basically supports it, from what I understand, from the past meetings.
So the Sierra Club, is it?
Petition.
Scioto and Ann Arbor Townships
Yeah, petition.
submitted that petition, so I feel like they would be a good starting point, as that their names are on the already submitted petition that got the ball rolling.
Well, I think CARD group should be involved in this because we probably have a lot more knowledge than the other groups. But I think, you know, we should, if we want.
Here's what I've learned since the EPA has been involved. You know, I've been working on this for 25 plus years. And there was information in the EPA attachments.
That you hadn't seen?
I hadn't seen.
Yeah. Well,
partly because I didn't go to the DEQ and rifle through their files.
Mm-hmm.
But there was pretty important information where there might be other sources of dioxin on the site that we hadn't really considered. In particular, I'm talking about the drain fields and the 6 different versions of where their spray irrigation was.
Mm-hmm.
I thought there was like one spray irrigation area. It turns out the boundary of that, there were 6 different representations of it.
Mm-hmm.
So there was all good of what the EPA did as far as they went. But there's probably more. I'm not
well,
sure.
The other thing that's blocking EPA from doing a full evaluation was the governor. And this was the last.
Well, that may be, yeah.
Well, the EPA meeting we had is on tape, thanks to you, Roger. I just reviewed it the other day, and it's clearly stated at that meeting that it was the governor that stopped, and the EPA agreed to that at that meeting. They said that's what stopped our full evaluation.
So that would be a good clip to share, to have on hand to share.
Yeah.
So you know where that was in the
I got exactly the minute.
So that's the kind of thing that we need to make reference to.
Yeah. So I guess, yeah, that's something we need to think about as a CARD group, whether we would, I would personally, and Rita, my wife, would like to see us move to petitioning EPA to reconsider contacting the governor. Maybe that's ongoing now, I don't know. It'd be nice to know
let's let things settle down a little bit.
Yeah.
And then plant the seeds.
Yeah.
I've got a note here to contact Donald since he seems to be involved with this panel to set up the
but I think
SIO meeting,
and
I can raise that
the
EPA issue with her.
They're bringing back 42, House Bill 42 something.
Right.
They're bringing one back.
So yeah, and the other issue is now the Congress is, according to Joseph Robbie and Jeff Irwin, they're going to propose a state bill.
You said
to bring
Congress,
back,
but you mean legislature?
The legislature.
Right.
Well, yeah, they're going to propose a bill to polluter pay, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen the details of it. I just heard from various sources that that's being worked on. So that's another opportunity we could try and take advantage of. And I guess the last thing I'd like to ask is, what's the status of the negotiations on the consent agreement with Gelman?
You're not going to get any answer.
Well, I'm just asking. No, I just want to know. You know, I just want to bring it up. Is there any additional information available that you could share with us?
No.
There you go.
Okay, have you met in the last 3 months?
Yes.
Have you met in the last month?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's good to know.
Are you meeting more often now?
Hard to say.
Hey, Brian.
Somebody's keeping track of the meetings. So somebody's keeping track of which meetings are when.
Well, I remember Rita.
I know when they are.
Rita asked that question, and she was surprised to find out that there was no meeting in the last 5 months when she asked that question. So that was kind of disturbing. Anyway, that was a while ago. But I just wanted to get, information as to how that's progressing.
And it's a valid point, because when secret meetings have happened and discussions have been made out of the public eye, sometimes bad things have happened in the past. And so we're always concerned about that. We're always concerned that now that there's even more parties involved, are the parties at least sharing what they know enough with the other parties on the same side?
I would like to ask also,
I have no idea if that's happening.
I would like to also ask, is there a draft resolution amongst the party at this point?
For what?
For an agreement?
Well, we've had a draft consent decree before, since before the intervention.
Yeah.
So is there a new draft available? I mean, a new draft being worked on?
That's what this is.
It's just being ongoing, you keep
Yeah.
editing it. Okay, that's good to know. I guess one other point I would like to make about the Allen Street test, Dan McNell had proposed testing for near surface groundwater, and with CARD's urging, a more detailed and more specific near surface groundwater test. I think that would be more appropriate than what we're doing now, and I think it's something that should be planned, and I think we need to encourage the DEQ or EGLE now to consider doing that. And Dan has submitted that request, and if you wanted to make changes to it, I think that would be something that we would like to discuss. But I think having a 400% increase at West Park over 8 months is very troubling to me and a lot of people to see that much of a change in the near surface groundwater exposure level. And like I said before, if this contamination reaches 280 in someone's basement and they're pumping it out of their basement with a sump pump, they will be in violation of state law, because that is basically a groundwater to surface water interface with a limit of 280 part per billion. Technically, you can go to 2,800 into a basement, but then you can't pump it out. So I think there's a real disconnect there with this current standard we have, and I think we need to evaluate that and because I could see in a not too distant future people will be getting higher levels in the groundwater infiltrating into their basements. As a part of the Ounce Creek Watershed Group over the last 25 years, I've had a lot of homeowners come to me and ask about groundwater and what they can do about it. There's a lot of wet basements, especially on the west side and the old west side. And I have real concerns about how that groundwater might be contaminated in the not too distant future and what the homeowners' recourse have.
I just want to clarify that the samples taken in the Allen Creek drain in that manhole, they're not groundwater pole samples. They're from that drain. So to say there was an 800% increase, there was in the two samples, but they're not the same as the shallow groundwater ones. So just so people aren't like, there's an 800% increase in this contaminant in my backyard. That's not that case.
We propose those sample sites, the Allen Creek group and the CARD group, propose those sample sites because I know from a former drain office.
I don't disagree with you. I just wanted to clarify.
That site at West Park picks up a lot of groundwater, and on purpose, to try and reduce the undermining of foundations and the roadways and other infrastructure.
Vince, what Jenny is pointing out is valid. That what we don't have is what the sample was at the same time they took a groundwater sample at West Park. We don't know what the sample was in the drain. And it's right, the drain is pulling from all this area upstream here. And what Dan Bicknell asked for was permanent sample locations all the way up to know what's going on in the groundwater before it gets to the drain. And we still don't have that.
I'm just saying that we have sites in Ann Arbor that have drains, have pipes that purposefully pick up groundwater near the surface.
Right.
The West Park is one of those sites. There's one over by Fingerly.
Right, but again, that's good to know that there's 19 parts per billion in the drain there. But where's it coming from?
Well, that's why we need a more.
That's why we need more, and that's the bottom line. Is that we don't have permanent monitoring going upstream from where we know there's dioxin coming. And it's been a couple, 3 years now, and we still don't have that. So that hopefully will change, but I don't see it anytime in the next month or two because of what's going on. Anyway, you got anything else on
I'm
your?
done.
Roger, could I just add, I just got a text back from Bryce, and there's nothing on the SIO calendar about a meeting on March 7th.
Right.
He doesn't know anything about
it.
Okay, so it's kind of hard to give people a month notice.
Yeah.
Right.
You got 2 days.
Are
So as we get
what
more
else is
information,
new?
we'll
Any other
notify
questions?
folks.
Anybody sitting on the side have any issues? I didn't get your name, by the way.
I'm John Nolan. I live in the south side of Ann Arbor.
Okay. And you came here because?
I saw the sign on the door when I walked in.
Oh, so you didn't come here for this meeting?
I came here
That's
for
how you get the household
You came here for
radon. No, I'm
You had no idea what you're getting into.
No, I've been following this.
Oh, we extended it because of the.
I've been
debt.
following what you're
So
doing.
I'm glad you came, and maybe you want to give some feedback.
I'm sure Gelder's invited to these meetings.
And you just mailed it.
By the way, there's one thing I didn't ask for at the city council meeting last night that I'd still like to follow up on. And we don't have our two former government employees here today, but what they had to say about their experience at government, I think, was valid. And I'd like to hear from more former government employees. How many here know of somebody that used to work at government?
Is there a reason? I'm sure that they refused to come. Have they?
No, it's just
we've
that
had
they-
people here. No, not former, current employees.
Oh, current employees, like hardly any. They're all gone.
No, the people who are running the.
Well, there's like 4 people doing sampling, but most of that's done by an outside firm.
Yeah, but
It's like a dark
from the
facility over
company,
there,
who's
I'd
making
say.
decisions on what they're doing?
Oh, well,
They won't participate. I'm assuming they've been invited.
well,
We can keep the discussion going, I just want to start clear.
yeah, let's do it as I talk about.
Sorry, I don't know the history.
Mike, when Paul took over, I said it's like dealing with the Borg. Remember the Borg?
Yeah.
You know somebody's making decisions, but you don't know who it's kind of conglomerate. And with Danaher, it's even worse.
I mean, I'll take them there, but both.
All right, so anybody else got any comments, questions to add? Anything to add?
I have a question about the documentary. So when do you guys think you'll be done?
So this is actually, the plan for this is to have just an ongoing sort of web series going on with this.
Okay.
You know, the plan is really just to start documenting and sort of see where this leads us. I've got quite a few places to go just for this meeting right here.
Is this a student project, or you guys?
Yeah,
I'm just curious. Is this that you got a student
We
project?
run a
over there?
production company in the Ann Arbor area,
Oh, okay.
and we're just kind of branching off. And
This is a grassroots citizen.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're all finishing on the Washtenaw right now, so we're part of the Washtenaw digital video program. So that's kind of where we've all met and everything. But I mean, you know, I've done other documentaries in the past. This is obviously an important issue to me because I live here. You know, I'm like just southwest of the plume, actually southeast of the plume. So it's like it's one of those things that, same thing you're saying, I went and I saw how much information there was, but I didn't see how much digestible, readily available information there was just to hand out to people that have no idea what's going on with this. So, you know, our plan is really just to kind of create almost like an encyclopedia of information on this going forward, of just really digestible content.
Everything from like what is dioxane to where it all came from.
So Roger has done a lot of videos.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah,
what
and
Roger's.
I intend to coordinate with these guys to kind of make sure that they're not duplicating somebody else's effort. And that what they're doing is melding into what we already have and there's some other people that are doing some side things. I don't want to have people wasting their time. I want to have it directed in a way that makes it's the most benefit for everybody. So.
But where will it be available once you get these segments on?
Well,
Netflix.
Yeah, there you go. We're in the process of putting together a channel right now. I mean, by the time everything gets up, I mean, you guys will see us plenty of times from here on out. So, I mean, as more information comes out, we have more stuff to produce and release, let everybody know. Because I mean, same thing too. I mean, we all kind of sat down and talked on the subject, and we weren't really sure exactly what we wanted to do with it. But we knew that it was very important that we get in and start immersing ourselves in information as much as possible. You know, just trying to get as much new stuff and just kind of combining with everything. So, we'll probably be the ones figuring out what's going on with that trail back there. But.
Well, push it right in. All right, so thanks everybody for coming. See you next month. You guys, we're gonna meet afterward.
Yeah.